help Scott and Solveig feel like they didn't miss quite as much. So that's great. With that, Richard, we'll turn the floor over to you for some sharing of your story and how this draft concept came to be for, let's see, about, where are we at? For about 10 minutes.
For the grounding, I want to read one verse or one stanza of Wendell Berry's poem, The Vision. I want to start with a little bit of silence and end with a little bit of silence. The abundance of this place, the songs of its people and its birds, will be health and wisdom and indwelling light. This is no paradisal dream. Its hardship is its possibility. So to sketch my story, I'm the child of a family torn to pieces by Depression, World War II, and the Cold War. And I'm now 86, married 63 years to Carol, 2 great kids, and a flock of grandchildren and great-grandchildren. The origins of this conversation were, for me, in 73 in the first oil crisis. I did a lot of research on the corporations and discovered they were running the world. And then followed the fact that from 73 to 79 in New York, we were in Brooklyn by then, the price of oil, heating oil, for the institutions and people of Brooklyn had doubled, bankrupting churches, driving landlords out, deep hardship for everybody. I was asked by a group of clergy to create some kind of strategy that would help them. And so what we did was create an energy cooperative. And it was highly effective for 18 months. We started with 17 churches and wound up in March of 82 with 24 churches and a credit union, and had a core of people who understood power, and they converted into a large-scale effort on housing and fought with the mayor and won. The other thing that happened in this period for me in 82 was I discovered Thomas Berry. I was introduced to Berry and Swim and Starhawk, and that completely changed my perspective on the world. It was no longer just the political economy of most organizing. There was a universe out there, and Mother Earth was out there. It took me a long time to discover that Mother Earth was in here. Big change. Berry was very helpful also in introducing me to the work of indigenous people. And so what emerged there was an understanding that we have 2 worldviews. The Western worldview, which is based on destruction, and the indigenous worldview, which is based on relationship and respect and love. So I quickly came to the conclusion that the indigenous were right and we were wrong. but what to do with that, of course. In Portland, I retired from 45 years of organizing, mostly with the Industrial Areas Foundation. I retired in 2005, and not long after that, I guess it was 2009 actually, when a really interesting group of people and I put together the biocommons classes, and they lasted for about 5 years, and it was wonderful. Great conversations, and it was focused on the relationship between capitalism and climate. Bill McKibben's article in July of 2011 gave us a timetable for when things would really get bad. And so all of a sudden there was an increased urgency in how to proceed. Solvay came partly to the rescue by inviting us outside one lunch to talk with the trees. And for a lot of people, including myself, that was a world-shaking event. And a lot has come out of that experience. It was a right brain experience of great creativity. I did 2 years of work with 350 after that on national actions on the pipelines. In 2016, I got sick. I got cancer. 2017, Carol got deeply sick. And yet I was able to keep reading, keep thinking. A period of great agitation for me. In the pandemic, my first question was, what's the real root here of the pandemic? And read into an interesting epidemiologist who said, hey, it's just common sense. This comes out of what happens when you tear up a forest. The bats go crazy. They bite the animals. The animals are on the run. They're tracked by high-priced hunters who deliver the animals, exotic animals, to the great expensive restaurants of Asia. That's how pandemics start, and that kind of disruption and destruction. Last year, I spent a whole year ill, UTI, that ended when one of my doctors said, garlic. All this paraphernalia and all the chemicals I'd been taking for the infections, forget about it. I was healed. Funny stories there, really, but I don't have time for that. So I healed in early March. And at the beginning of June, I started experiencing a lot of creativity. I mean, all this stuff that I had picked up in these classes I participated in the actions in Brooklyn, in research, I understood all on a left brain basis. And I was anxious, deeply angry, deeply frustrated. And it was personalized on my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. My first grandchild is now 12, and he's a wisdom child. And so it focused there. And I didn't know, but all of a sudden in June, things started to, the elements of what part of which you have in front of you, the elements came together. And I found myself in a surge of creative energy and episodes of great intuition And my experience there was that this was gift. This was not my ego. Organizers often run off egos, but this was something much deeper, much more instructive, much wiser. And so it was a gift. And so in this morning's discussion, I pass that gift along to you.
Thank you so much, Richard. We'll now have an opportunity to, this is still where we want to do one-to-ones, right, Richard
Yes,
and Janet? Okay, great. So we'll now have an opportunity to pair up with one other person. And Richard, do we just reflect with the other person on whatever bubbles up for us in response to your story, or do you have a particular question you want us to reflect on?
I don't have a question.
Okay, so whatever's bubbling up for you in response, please. And then Lee, in the interest of time, since we're running a few minutes behind, if you could just randomly pair us up. Thank you so much.